So let's head into the 1-2-3 inning. And this was very, very interesting because as we've seen it, right? And I'm going to let you touch on this first, Dalton, because you had a closer look on this series than I did. But the Mets go into Los Angeles, have some success against the Dodgers. Obviously, the Dodgers came out of that series feeling at least somewhat decent after their 10-0 win in Glasnow's start. But this was a fairly successful stretch right now for the Mets. They took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. They swept the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have been fairly hot to start the year. 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, who has been pretty hot to start the year. It was a 4-game series. One of the games got postponed. They took 2 out of 3 in Atlanta to start the year. So this is a Mets team right now that is, I mean, at the moment, it looks like they're kind of firing on all cylinders. I mean, what do you take away from this? Are you kind of buying into their success? Is this sustainable? What do you make of the New York Mets at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think a lot of people were, myself included, were probably a little too down on the Mets preseason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you actually get a chance to take a look at that roster in person, it's it's serviceable. I mean, Lindor and Alonso are producing, right? McNeil hasn't been great, but like, man, Marte was awesome in that Dodgers series. Nimmo walks almost every at bat. It feels like, obviously losing Alvarez for them hurts.
Yeah,
They lost game Friday night in LA. But it's a pretty deep team offensively. Like, they're not great, but they're solid. And I think they're a team that's good enough that they can make a run at a wild card. Now, they're not going to win that division or compete in that division. I don't know how much noise they can really make if they make it into the playoffs, but I think it's not outlandish to think that this could be an 85, 87 win team if things break their way. And so far, things are breaking their way. Like Severino with a 2.14 ERA so far, I didn't see that coming.
after
Quintana has
2 really rough starts to start the year, too. Severino did not start the year well.
Right. And then Quintana has looked good. Now, I will say, if you take a look at Quintana's baseball savant page, like, that regression monster is going to eat him alive. It might happen tonight. Bet the over in Mets Giants tonight if you can, still at 7.5. But I think Quintana, the regression monster, is coming. But the Minaya signing was great. Jose Butto the other night looked great against the Dodgers. Adrian Hauser is what he is. He got lit up, but he's a 5-starter. That's all they really are asking him to be. So I think that, like, there are some pieces, like, they're a little bit, they fall into kind of like that Diamondbacks, Padres, like that second 2.5 to 3 tier in the NL, where it's like they're a competitive team, right? Maybe right there with the Reds. So my take on the Mets is they're better than I thought. Are they like a real contender? No, but they're better than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's the reasonable takeaway here, is that they very easily could be better than what people thought. I mean, I'll go back to the Pacoda projections that we had to begin the year. I mean, Pacoda was projecting them at 83 and 79. I mean, they were projecting them to be 8 wins better than what they were last year. And I was even, you and I think both said this. We were both like, that's pretty generous. Like, we really didn't think that they were, that they should have been valued that highly. But I guess shows what we know to a sense. But here's the thing that I know about the Mets, because again, I live with Met fans. My entire family, I shouldn't say my entire family. I have a bunch of family members that are Met fans. I have, like, I don't know why they would do that to themselves, but they are. But this is what the Mets do, right? And I know that this kind of sounds like such a casual take, but the Mets are the ultimate, like, 1 month hot, 1 month cold team, and they are every single year, regardless of what their roster looks like. That's just what they are, right? There's going to be a point. I'm telling you right now, there's a real chance that the Mets going into June are going to be maybe a game or 2 out of first place. Like, they're going to be at the top of the division, around the top of the division, once the summer hits. And then in June or in July, they're going to go 5-20 in 1 month. Like, that's just how the Mets work. I'm being dead serious. Like, Met fans they're not even upset that I'm saying this, because they know that it's true, because it happens every single year. And the expectations for the Mets were so low to begin the year, even amongst Mets fans, that I think they're even surprised at how they're starting right now. Because again, it's not even like they're beating up on, like they're beating up on the Nationals and the Rockies and the White Sox and like the super duper bottom of the barrel teams. I mean, the Pirates have had a pretty good start. The Dodgers are really good. The Braves are really good. Like, these are good teams that they're actually beating. I never really doubted their ability to put up runs, right? Especially after this, since they signed JD Martinez, and he hasn't been included in the lineup yet, but especially since they signed JD Martinez, I was like, this is a lineup that I think can score runs pretty consistently, right? Now, I had a little bit of skepticism when it came to Pete Alonso. I think his batting average needed to go up, but even with the production that he inherently gives you just from a power bat, I mean, that's a producing lineup. The big thing really, the big thing really is that, I'm just, I think I'm kind of in the same spot as you. I didn't expect their pitching to be this good, especially. I mean, even without Kodai Senga, like, they're getting really quality starts out of Quintana, out of Sean Manaea, out of Luis Severino, out of like you said, Buto. Like, I who the hell? Like, it's just
Butto. Yeah.
yeah, but right, Butto. But that's what I'm saying. It's like they're just. This is what the Mets do. They look great early on in the year. They look like they're going to set the world on fire, and they don't even really look like they're going to set the world on fire, but they're playing well. I'm telling you, come July, it's going to be like 5-20, and then they're going to fall behind the Nationals in the division, and I'm going to have to deal with a ton of screaming Met fans on Long Island. That's just the way it is. That's how they are, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mets fans have already heard me say this once on the show, and I'll probably say it a couple more times. Mets fans are some of my least favorite because when things are going well, they will act as if they are rooting for the unquestioned best team in baseball. And then the moment things start going poorly, it's you need to feel bad for me because I'm a Mets fan. And I don't have a lot of like tolerance for like fans playing both sides of that at the same time. And that's the kind of fans Mets fans have, or the kind of fans Met fans are. So I look forward to the downturn. I know it'll happen. But I think that team I think they have upside to be like a little bit over 500, maybe if things break their way.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think 500-ish is a realistic expectation. I want to talk about the Cleveland Guardians too. You mentioned them as a team that's also overperforming right now. And like, I just think we need to have an honest conversation about scheduling in baseball, right?
Yeah, right.
This is a team that's already played the Oakland A's 7 times and won 6 of them.
Wow.
This is a team that's already played the White Sox 3 times. They got 4 with Boston. Boston's nothing super special, right? Like they've had some pretty easy series out of the gate. Now, have they outperformed expectations despite that? Sure, right? I mean, it's incredibly impressive that they're 16-6. I didn't think they would be, but as a betting man, this is where I start to look for opportunities to buy or sell a team as the season goes along. And this team's probably number 1 on my list in terms of teams that I want to sell right now. They're about to go through a stretch where they host Boston, then they're going to go to Atlanta and Houston back to back. Not a bad time to sell them this week. Yeah, I have a feeling that they've got some losses coming down the pike in the next 10 days. The better spot to sell them might even be in 2 weeks because after that they get the Angels, Tigers, and White Sox again. So, look, that's the advantage of playing in the AL Central. But I think over time, as this team has to face some more of the meat of their schedule, I think they're going to get exposed a bit. They're probably better than I thought, but like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm simply not buying the Guardians even now.
Well, hey, I mean, listen, you were super skeptical on Cleveland even to begin the year, right? Like you even said, I mean, I think the words were, if I'm not mistaken, I think the words were quote unquote, this team is ass. I think you said.
I still kind of think they're ass. I mean, we'll see. I mean, so far they're not ass, right?
They're not ass, right?
So far, but I still think they might be ass. So we'll see.
They might have even gotten more ass since Shane Bieber went down, which I think was actually kind of tragic. He put a really good first start, and then went down. But hey, listen, I think that it's definitely, you have to give respect to some of the guys in their lineup that are just having great starts to the year, right? Steven Kwan is hitting 360, right? Like, regardless of who you're playing, 360 is 360. You know what I mean? I just think that, as far as that's concerned, you got to give him that. Josh Naylor has also had a really, really good start to the year. Now, like I said, I think I fall in more in line with you that I don't know that this is sustainable. However, you have to kind of keep this in mind too. This is a division that I think you and I both kind of agreed that was very in flux. This was a division that could, you know, like it could be very, very weak as far as a long-term sample size is concerned. Obviously the Twins are struggling at the moment, but it really depends on how you feel about Kansas City and Detroit, whether or not their success is sustainable going forward. They both have decent young teams, but listen, one of the things that I think the Guardians do that um, is, I guess it's fairly impressive as far as I'm concerned, is that they do seem to have a way with young pitching. They really
Oh,
do.
totally. Yeah.
Like they really find a way to bring out guys. I mean, they're tied for second in the league with batting average against. They're second in the majors with runs allowed, second in the majors in hits allowed, fourth in team ERA. They have just over a 3 ERA. Now, again, the point that you brought up earlier is that, like, yeah, the teams they're playing for the most part at the beginning of the year are not strong, but these are also guys that are like nobodies on the mound, right? Like we're talking about like Tanner Bybee, Tristan McKenzie. Like I just am, Tristan McKenzie, I shouldn't say is a nobody, but you know what I mean? It's like there's
Yeah,
not like
I mean,
super duper guys here.
yeah. I mean, look, I think Tanner Bybee is pretty good. Tristan McKenzie, when he's healthy, is excellent. Um, I will say McKenzie is fascinating right now because he's pitching with a torn UCL, and he's elected to, instead of getting Tommy John, he tried to just aggressively rest it. Claims he's pitching pain free, but the velocity's not really there. And so far, he's kind of found a way to be successful even without the velocity being there. But um, if there's a pitcher on thin ice right now from like an injury perspective, it's probably him. I'm hoping that he can stay healthy and see some success. He's been
Yeah,
really vulnerable in some of his interviews about it, which has been cool to see. But he's a fascinating guy this year in general for them.
yeah, I agree. I agree. Listen, um, what do you think is the over under on the day that Emmanuel Clase gets traded?
Well, right now you got to take the over, right? I mean, at this point, I think
Probably.
it'll be close to the deadline. But gosh, I mean that's a piece I'd love for the Dodgers to go get, given the way our bullpen's been looking.
I
But
think that's a piece that
we'll
everybody would love to get their hands on. Any
yeah,
contender, really.
yeah, we'll leave that conversation for July. But I do think it's a conversation we'll be having. By the way, just like kind of a small bonus here, you can get the Guardians over under on wins right now at ESPN Bet at 86.5. I would hit that under. I
Yeah.
think that it gives you, this team can go 10 games over 500 and you're still cashing an under on the Cleveland Guardians. That sounds like an overreaction to me.
Yeah,
Just right there.
that actually does seem fairly obvious.